What's up, guys? It's Corbin Stuckey of Pixel Talk here, and I'm here to give you my review of Shazam. This was directed by David F. Sandberg. He is the director of Annabelle Creation and Lights Out, two horror films that I really enjoyed. Warner Brothers is doing this thing now where they're hiring horror directors to direct superhero films. I don't know who made that decision, but whoever is deciding to do this is genius because it's bringing different visions and styles to these movies, which I really appreciate. So Shazam stars Zachary Levi as Billy Batson, who is a 15-year-old boy who one day finds himself in front of a wizard that grants him the ability to turn into an adult superhero. This is basically Big, but in superhero form. And what do I think about this film? Because I've been very critical towards DCEU films for a very long time now. The only one that I really liked was Wonder Woman. And looking back at that film, the third act really contradicts what the entire film is trying to say. But I still really like Wonder Woman. And Aquaman was good. It's got some really good visual effects. It's colorful. I like the tone that the movie had, but it just had a lot of nitpicks that really made me not fully appreciate the film. So that being said, of my opinion of the other DCEU films thus far, what do I think of Shazam? I loved this movie. I absolutely loved it. I cannot believe that I'm saying that finally. It took me 6 years to find a good DCEU film. I loved it. Finally, we have a good DCEU film. And in my opinion, this might be the best DCEU film thus far, in my opinion. Going into this film, you're going to get a lot of what you've seen in the trailers thus far, and I feel like you're going to get a lot more because this film actually has a very unique theme to it, because it's from Warner Brothers and they're responsible for Harry Potter and stuff like that. There's actually like this mythical fantasy theme to it, especially when Billy meets the wizard and he grants him this ability to turn into Shazam. I was not expecting that throughout this film. I just was totally caught off guard that this was so magical in a way. I really liked how the film presented itself in that manner. And, you know, because it is from the perspective of a kid and it's a story about a kid turning into a superhero, basically, that concept in itself is magical. So you have to present it in a way where it's just fun to watch. And this film, I can't say enough, is incredibly fun. I really enjoyed this, like, immensely. I like films, obviously I like superhero films, but I like superhero films where it involves a younger character who acknowledges that he has become a superhero. That's why I like Spider-Man so much, because he's a teenager and he becomes a superhero and he enjoys it. And that's why I like a lot of other films like Kick-Ass and Chronicle even, where we're dealing with younger characters who realize that they have abilities that they've seen on TV or in movies, and they decide to use these abilities to first have fun and enjoy this, but they start to realize that they have responsibilities to uphold. And one of the many things that I loved about this movie is when he's testing these abilities with his friend Freddy, and he's just having fun at first. He's actually using these abilities to make money on the streets and having people pay him, and it's just like, that's probably something that an orphan would do if he found himself in a situation like that at first. He would use this to gain something out of it. And I also have to say that this film is incredibly funny. Like, it's hilarious. Like, there's even a cancer joke in this film. And I know that sounds like bad, but this film does not hold back whatsoever. Like, it's a really, really funny film. And I have to give it props for that because, you know, a lot of the other DCEU films, there is some degree of humor, especially from The Flash and some in Aquaman, but I have to say, this is the funniest DC film I've seen, and I think a lot of that has to do with its source material and the idea that we're basically dealing with a man-child. And I just loved how I finally laughed in a DC film. I was enjoying myself. I wasn't depressed or anything like that. It was a good movie, and I related to the characters, and that's really hard to do in any DC property because we're dealing with characters like Superman and Batman who, you know, Batman's a billionaire and Superman's an alien. So it's really hard to relate to these characters to some degree. You can't relate to them to an extent, but this is the most relatable character because we have a kid who finds that he has abilities now and he's doing things that we would do. And I just love the concept of this. And I'm so happy that I really like this film. Zachary Levi, I'm just going to get this out of the way, is amazing in this. I foresaw a problem when I saw the trailers. I was kind of afraid that the kid actor who was portraying Billy and Zachary Levi portraying Shazam, I was afraid that those two actors weren't going to be able to link in a way, because I see Zachary Levi as a very charismatic actor, and from what I saw from the trailers, I saw this kid kind of being rebellious and almost kind of emo. But surprisingly, these characters match up very well. I bought the fact that this kid turned into Shazam and it was the same person. So I just really appreciated the fact that these weren't just like two different characters. Like, it wasn't just like, you know, this rebellious kid and this outgoing superhero. It did feel like they were the same person. So that's one of the issues that I had from the trailers. So I'm happy to report the fact that that is not the case. These are basically the same character. Awesome. The film's also really emotional as well because, you know, Billy is a foster kid, and you're also wondering in the film, because it's presented in the beginning that he has a mother, but all of a sudden he is left like at a carnival, and you're wondering, where is his mom, or where did she go? So the film is a bit of a mystery itself because you're trying to figure out where his mom is, and it's also emotional because you see what he's going through. He's trying to track down his mom, and he's also dealing with the fact that he's been brought into another foster home and he has to deal with this new family. And you understand why he doesn't want to be there. He knows that his mom is out there. He had a mom, and he doesn't really want to be a part of this family, even though they're incredibly loving. He just wants to go out and find his mom. And I really loved that subplot as well. And Jack Dylan Grazer from It is in this film as Freddy. I really love this kid. I love this actor. I stated in It that I see this kid going places, and I just loved his character. He's basically a fanboy. He's just a kid who is excited to be with Billy on this journey, and he's doing what I would do if I had a friend who was a superhero. He's like recording him, and he's posting it on YouTube and stuff, and it's just like, I love how realistic the film is and how these characters handle this situation. And he's just freaking out. I absolutely love it. And he's got all this like superhero merchandise and superhero memorabilia. And we'll get into that because I do want to talk about that as well, because this film does acknowledge that it's a DC film. And Mark Strong is in this film. Absolutely love Mark Strong. He's playing Dr. Sivana in this film. And I don't really know a whole lot about this character, so I'm not going to be able to say if it was accurate or not. But I did enjoy him in the film. I did believe at some points that he was just a villain. You know, he was just a power-hungry villain that wanted to defeat Shazam just to gain powers and such. But I appreciated that the film went to the extent of explaining why he is the way he is. Like, he had like a troubled relationship with his father and everything. So I really appreciated that aspect. It wasn't just like some random guy that appears out of nowhere that's power-hungry. It actually showcases his childhood. And I like that. I appreciated that the film actually tried to present us an earlier image of this character and present an understanding as to why he is the way he is. So, good job at trying to be decent with your villain. I also really enjoyed the climax of this film. I don't really want to get into spoilers because the trailers have actually been really good in terms of keeping away spoilers, because there's actually a lot in this film that wasn't in the trailer. So I really appreciated the marketing behind this film. However, there is merchandise that showcases like little glimpses of what is going to happen in the film, what happens to these kids who are a part of this foster home. So the merchandise does spoil the climax a little bit, but even though that I saw it coming in terms of the merchandise, I absolutely loved it. It was like Power Rangers. You guys know how much I love Power Rangers, like colorful things, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Like I said, I don't really want to go into spoilers, but if you know what I'm talking about, that portion of the film is really good and really funny. One of the main negatives that I can foresee someone having with this film is this film takes place in the DCEU, and it acknowledges that. This film, to an extent, it's not as forced, but this film is very much its own Spider-Man Homecoming, where Spider-Man Homecoming acknowledges the fact that it's in the MCU, because Spider-Man is home. He's back in Marvel's hands, and the movie wants to present itself that it's in this universe, and there's references to like Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, and it's one of the problems that I have with that film is that it's heavily forced. That's one of my main issues with Spider-Man Homecoming. But with this film, it does acknowledge that it's in the DCEU because Freddy has all of this merchandise and we see all of this superhero memorabilia and these logos. He's wearing Aquaman t-shirts with the Aquaman symbol, and he has a batarang and stuff like that. But in my opinion, it's not really forced, really, because that is the character. He is a fan of superheroes, and it really adds on to the story because, you know, these kids are fans of these heroes, and when one of them becomes a superhero, it adds on to the fact that they're freaking out because this is awesome and they love superheroes. The problem that I foresee is where the DCEU is at right now, where they're talking about rebooting franchises and recasting some characters. I can foresee these Easter eggs being kind of dated. Now, they might just keep the same logos that they've had since Batman v Superman. I don't know, but I can foresee that kind of being a problem in the future for someone who buys the Shazam Blu-ray and they see all of this stuff like the Superman logo and Batman logo from Batman v Superman, and maybe at that time when they're watching Shazam, those characters have already been recasted and rebooted, and there's like already new looks to those characters. So I kind of foresee that as an issue because the film references those other films, not directly, but only in like kind of a visual style because it showcases the logos. That's what I foresee. Someone in the future having a problem with this film, having dated material like that. But at the same time, I don't care. I really don't, because this is a very enjoyable film, and I have to recommend it. This is amazing. I am so happy that I finally liked a DCEU film. It took 6 years. I finally liked a DCEU film. I'm gonna cry. So yes, guys, that was my thoughts on Shazam. Comment down below what you guys thought of this film if you've seen it yet. Like this video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and gaming content. Also, guys, just want to let you know this film doesn't come out for another 2 weeks. I got to review it early, but I am doing something special on the day the film comes out, which is April 5th. I am going to be talking about Man of Steel. I have not talked about this film yet. I have talked about every other DCEU film out there, but I haven't talked about the first one, and I feel as though that's really weird. I've talked about each and every one, but I haven't talked about Man of Steel. So on April 5th, I'm going to be reviewing that. I'm super excited. I'm going to be going in depth as to what I actually think about that film. And yeah, I can have closure. Yes. Guys, thank you so much for the support. Please subscribe, like this video, do whatever you can so we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. I'm Corporate Stucky, and this is Pixel Talk.